Hi everyone. Today let's talk about Meta earnings. Then we got some charts to go over, and then we'll go over my return for today and my positions going into tomorrow. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So Meta stock, or the parent of Facebook, however you want to think about it, plummeted 14% on weak earnings and a fourth quarter forecast that was pretty terrible. They said they lost over $9 billion in Q3 due to their VR headsets, which is really the big push that they're trying to make, obviously. So they renamed their company Meta, and they're trying to make this virtual reality thing a thing, and nobody really wants to do that right now. If you've been following this company for any length of time, you'd know that they have tanked over the course of the year, losing 2/3 of their value, and they just lost another 14%. I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg is very sad if he can feel emotions, but that remains to be seen. Looking at the actual numbers here, earnings per share are slightly less than expected. Revenues were actually a little bit higher than expected. Daily active users were right as expected. Monthly active users, same as expected. And then the revenue per user was not as much as expected. Basically, what this tells me is they were pretty close, but their weak forward guidance is what's causing the company to have their multiple contract, as the growth of Meta platforms is no longer the same trajectory as it's been, and that's why the company has sold off basically 66% at this point. The only other thing worth mentioning in this article is that they plan to spend a lot more money in Reality Labs, which is where they're losing most of their money already, and they said those investments will happen far into 2023 and beyond. Basically, they're taking money from a weak advertising market and pushing it into a Reality Labs industry, which is currently losing $9.4 billion for the company, and we don't know if that's going to make any money in the future. Moving over to the S&Ps, you can see that structure is still continuing to hold. We did make a higher high in the middle of the day, came back down right to that support line that had been in the middle of this channel for quite a while. This breaks down tomorrow, then we're going to see it push down to 377, maybe even 375. That would be a pretty big move in one day, but this is still technically a bear market, even if the short term has been very bullish. Zooming out to the one-day charts here, you can see we're right in the middle of this longer-term channel, and there's certainly potential for a turnaround at this level. Moving over to the NASDAQ, you can see not as bullish, had a lower high today, looking like a double top formation. Hopefully you used this opportunity of a rally in the middle of the day to start closing some of those positions, if you are following along with my positions, that is. But this definitely looked weak in the middle of the day and started to accelerate all the way down to around 277, 278. And then we had the earnings announcement with Meta, which is a pretty large part of the QQQ. So we're down a little bit more after hours to 277.75. In terms of structure, we have support somewhere around 275. It would not surprise me if we went another 1% down tomorrow. If we do break through that level, the next level of support that I would be looking at is around 271. Moving over to the Russell, we made a much higher high today, getting all the way up to 182 at one point, before selling off all the way back down to 179. And then rallying a little bit after hours here. So the structure is very bullish, not affected by the earnings like the NASDAQ or the S&P 500. There is support clearly at 179. And if we came all the way down to 177, 178 in this range here, I would expect further support before we continue to rally here. The structure is still very bullish. We go over to the longer term charts on this one. We did get all the way up to that daily 144 EMA. That's exactly where we turned around. We have a very clear double bottom formation here. And it seems like we're going to get a push all the way up to 202, 203. That would be my ultimate price target for this rally if we do get a continuation here. And based on what the dollar is doing, as you'll see later, there's certainly a possibility that that could happen. Moving over to Meta, of course, this is a dumpster fire. The stock finished right at 130 or so. And then after hours, it tanked all the way down to 107. A little bit below now, 106.50, and it's continuing downwards. So huge downtrend all the way from 388 or so, down more than 2/3 to 106.50. Nothing really you can do for this. Maybe if you're short, you got a little lucky here. I saw it coming a little bit, but I didn't trade it. I thought advertising dollars were going to be weak, as they were with Snapchat and on Alphabet. So I suspected this was going to be weak. I didn't think it was going to be this week, and I didn't trade it, but I did hedge a little bit, so we'll take a look at my positions and how I did that later. Moving over to the top gainers for today, so we got Netflix continuing this massive rally all the way from $213 or so up to $300. Hopefully you made a couple of bucks in here. I was not trading Netflix. Probably should have traded it when we got this retrace here to 264 before we got the continuation up to 305. That would have been a pretty good trade in my opinion, but I wasn't paying close enough attention to the stock, and it's probably something that I should have been doing. But otherwise, top gainer for today, Netflix, up around 2.5%. Another company we got on top gainers today, a new one, we got DraftKings. This has been beaten down pretty dramatically. This stock was at $73 or so at its highs, and it's currently below $15, so it's a $14.60 stock right now at the close. And this stock was even lower here recently. The most recent lows are around $9.80. Could have got it for less than $10. It's rallied about 50% from those lows, so pretty good trading recently. Most recent highs is around $21. We have a little bit of a bearish structure here. We are bouncing off support we have established here previously. If we do get a break through this level here, there's certainly a potential that we could get back into this $21 range, which would be certainly a pretty strong rally here for DraftKings. So you can definitely put this on your watch list. Momentum is strong. We got green momentum here on the daily chart. RSI right in that mid-range where you want to see. And we are getting strong movement here to the upside. So in my opinion, there's certainly potential for a trade here. Definitely one to keep an eye on. Moving over to LULU, one of my channel favorites, got all the way up to 328 here in the middle of the day before selling off all the way back down to 320. Basically at the close of day the previous day, I really wanted to see this move over here. We did get a move down to like 314, back here down to the 21 EMA. I probably would have been selling a position in here. I will say momentum is to the downside here on the hourly chart, and we did get the cross here on the MACD, so everything is pointing to the downside. We were also pretty overbought here, and we did get that move down. So everything says be patient here with LULU right now, and I would expect to see some higher lows here in the near future, which should be a pretty good trade. Moving over to DXY, everything's still looking good, moving strongly to the downside. Blew right through this 110 level with a big leg move down. Momentum still increasing here to the downside, not quite oversold yet on the daily chart. I expect this to get at least down to 109, if not a little bit lower, 108.80 or so, somewhere in this range before we get any kind of bounce here in the dollar. So maybe another day or two of downward movement. If we do get some consolidation here, that would still be pretty good for markets. But as long as the dollar continues to weaken, that should be good for markets. And I think that's part of why we're seeing strength still in the Russell today, even though the S&Ps and the NASDAQ were down a little bit. TLT doing exactly what we thought that it might. As the dollar comes down, bonds start to rally, and we're getting back up to that 144 EMA and that $97 range. So pretty decent rally, 92 and some change up to 96 and some change. I think we got a little bit more to go here. Try to get a test of this 144. As long as the dollar continues to move down, we should see bonds continue to go higher. We are getting pretty close to overbought here on the hourly chart. But if you go down to the 4-hour chart, you can see we still have some room to go. That's because this has been selling really dramatically here recently. We were super oversold back down here, so still some room to go a little bit higher on TLT. Moving over to JNK, no change to the thesis here. Made a higher high, made a higher low, and we started to rally back into the end of the day. Still expecting this to go up to around 91.25 or so, back up to this previous resistance that we had established here back at the beginning of October. So some room for upside here as the dollar continues to fall. We should see JNK go higher. Finishing off here with the VIX, you can see we're actually accelerating to the downside. The MACD is accelerating as well. Let's go up to the 1-day chart. So it looks kind of like we're looking at before. Still have some support here in the 26.75 range. So maybe another down day. Did close right at the lows here on the VIX. So usually to me, that means we'll get some kind of a retrace, maybe into the morning tomorrow before we get a continuation downwards. We're also right at that support level that I mentioned in the previous videos. So it wouldn't surprise me if we get that bounce, retest, and then a continuation down, or even a little bit stronger bounce here off the 26.75 level, back up to the 21 EMA, which should be somewhere around 29.50 if we do see that pretty strong bounce. I don't think this overall structure is going to break down, but this has been a really strong leg down. So definitely look for a little bit of a retrace, which means we will see a little bit more volatility in markets, which means we could see some downside. Moving over to my accounts, you can see I was down a little bit more than $139, around 0.2% on my overall accounts. Still had a green day in my Roth IRA because I am trading the IWM in there. So still good there. Did lose a little bit of money on the Qs today. You can see I did close a lot of those positions. I did close them as they were moving into those highs that we saw. And then once I started to see weakness, I was closing pretty much all of those positions. I did not close my calls. In fact, I rolled them down and rolled them out in time. You can see they're lower now here, down at 277. And they're now expiring on Friday for both of those calls that I had going into the day. And then all of those puts that I had, I closed them as the markets continued down. So I'm not going to get assigned on any of those. I definitely saved myself some money there, selling into the strength and then selling as the market came down, protecting my profits from yesterday. And then you can see I sold 2 new puts here, basically at the end of the day, down at 271 and 272. So that's where I'm looking to re-enter the market, back down at that 270. You can see I got 90 cents credit here, so 270 on this put, and then $1 credit here, so 271. So my overall buy price between these 2 puts would be $270.50, or about $8 cheaper than where we are right now. I do have to be careful because I do have these calls here. I did sell those for $3.50 each. So I collected about $7 of credit here on those 2 contracts. And that protects me all the way down to $273.50 based on those credits. So $277 minus $3.50. And I was a little bit aggressive on these on purpose. So the stock was actually trading higher than that. You can see I did take a little bit of a loss just for a short period of time because the market is higher than what I sold the calls at. And that is because I anticipated Meta trading downwards after earnings. So I was aggressive with these calls. I wasn't sure that that was going to happen, so I did leave them on, and I might lose some money on these later. But I was pretty much as aggressive as I felt comfortable being to the downside just to hedge my position as much as I could. And if you look at the NASDAQ right now, it's actually a little bit lower. Hasn't broken the 277 level yet, but it's getting pretty close to that. So the main takeaway is I hedged my position in the NASDAQ and only lost a little bit of the money that I made yesterday. Definitely comment down below if you think Meta is a dying company or if their metaverse is going to pay off. Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.